that question a lot. People are really concerned about polymer demand, specifically polypropylene. When we look at all the different regions, we see polypropylene growth with a lot of potential, particularly in Asia. There's going to be a lot of it. So PP is going to be priced very competitively. I think in most applications where you can choose between polypropylene and other materials, you'll probably go with polypropylene. We start going around the globe, and I think in Europe, it'll be competitive with polyethylene. The only area where we really have a question mark is North America, a little bit of the influence on South America, and that's because of the unique propylene volatility that we've seen here over the last 15 years. So outside of polypropylene in North America with some volatility, PP looks really well poised to grow in the future. So we've seen quite a bit of announcements in Asia led by China. It's really interesting. It's a bit of a challenge for other producers around the world, particularly in the West. We've seen a drive for self-sufficiency in the ethylene chain. For polyethylene, for example, in China, when you make ethylene in a steam cracker, you make a certain amount of propylene. So we've gotten propylene there as a co-product. We've seen refinery expansions in China, and you also get refinery-grade propylene there. And we've seen a lot of investment in propane dehydrogenation, importing propane from the US or other parts of the world to make propylene, and a little bit of coal to olefins, in particular propylene. So when you combine all that expansion and investment in propylene, we've got a lot of polypropylene in China. So China dominates the growth today and for the foreseeable future, and part of the oversupply around the world for polypropylene is really just because of what's happening in China. So rationalization, that's a tough one. Nobody wants to be put on the list of plants to be shut down, but we're looking at operating rates at the lowest levels for polypropylene globally since well over 30 years. We look around the globe, and it's easy to say if you're small and you're high cost and you sell commodity polypropylene, you have a good chance of shutting down. We've seen some public announcements by some companies in Europe that are naphtha-based that have been struggling. You got to remember, it's not so simple because a lot of times polypropylene is tied in with an ethylene derivative like polyethylene, because you are associated with an ethylene cracker that's making ethylene for polyethylene as well as propylene for polypropylene. So you'll have to shut down not only the PP plant, but the polyethylene plant. And then we have refineries, which some are old, and they may be ones that have to shut down. And you don't just shut down the polypropylene plant, you shut down the refinery, and as a result, you'll shut the polypropylene plant. So rationalization is certainly a possibility. We do have a base case of some rationalization coming out of the marketplace in the next 5 years, but it's not nearly enough to correct the market. We are forecasting a trend, and we don't want to pick winners and losers. That's very difficult. So no, it would not be a surprise if we saw more rationalization. And I'm going to go back to the beginning. Folks with older plants selling commodity markets based on naphtha are probably in the most danger of rationalization. And we find those in Europe, we find them in South America, and we find them in parts of Asia. So that's something we're keeping our eye on, absolutely.